Pew pew!
Counter-Strike, a game originally started as a modification for Half-Life and then released as a fully fledged standalone game by Valve, is soon to be rebirthed in the form of CSGO, or Counter-Strike Global Offensive. For those of you that have not played Counter-Strike, or God forbid know not of its existence, Counter-Strike is a tactical FPS that balances strategic team gameplay with precise aiming and shooting mechanics, and is one of the most, if not the most popular FPS games ever made. Now, if you have followed Counter-Strike over the years, you will know there is, generally speaking, two groups of players, ones that swear by 1.6 and ones that swear by CS Source. With CSGO, Valve are looking to finally unite players of 1.6 and CS Source into a happy family of terrorists and global special forces killing each other with joy and harmony. Taking a look at the gameplay, what's new with CSGO? For me, one of the biggest changes to CSGO over previous Counter-Strikes is that it's set up out of the box to allow people to jump into a 5v5 match. You don't need a clan or to plan a match, you can simply click on join and bam, right away you're in a match with people playing Counter-Strike. With older versions of Counter-Strike, if you're not in a clan it's near impossible to find a server set up for 5v5 or 7v7. For the most part you'll be limited to joining a public server with 20 to 30 plus people, and to me this is simply not how Counter-Strike was designed to be played, though sometimes it can be fun to play it this way. One of the most notable things with having games limited to 5v5 is that people tend to play more as a team, focusing more on winning the objective. In contrast, when playing on public servers in CSS or 1.6, people tend to play more for kills and objectives. As a result, a lot of the tension, a lot of the dynamics that make CS so addictive and fun are lost. Another advantage of having games played with 5v5 is that it's plausible in most situations that you can potentially win with skill and maybe a bit of luck. When you start getting 7 or more players on each team, the chance of you running into a possible situation increases regardless of your skill level. In general, CSGO and the 5v5 format simply works. The in-game voice quality has massively improved and is now at a perfectly acceptable quality. Even more remarkable is that people seem to use the voice to communicate tactics and help teammates. Ghosting has now been fixed in the base game. When you die, you can only view the game through live teammates. Surprisingly, you can still communicate with your team when dead, allowing people to communicate where they were shot from and where the bomb might be planted. This in some ways replicates the experience of playing CS in a competitive environment at a LAN where everyone can be in communication with each other, regardless of if they're dead or alive. To me this works well and further encourages team play, even on a public server where you might not know the people that you're playing with. What's remarkable with CSGO is that you often really do get that feeling you get when you play CS1.6 or CSS at a LAN. To get that on a public server is no small achievement by Valve. Maybe it's just the beta and the people in the beta, but the frequency of enjoyable games on public servers is far higher than that of CSS or CS1.6. Worst case, if things do go downhill when the game goes public, it shouldn't be too hard to find 5 friends on your Steam list to create a team with and have an enjoyable game. Yes, the game does have bots. At first I was disgusted by the thought of bots in a multiplayer game like CS. But the good news is, for the most part, you will not be playing against bots, and even when there are bots, you won't be playing against bots. I realise that doesn't make any sense, so I'll explain how the bots work. The way the bots work is that they're essentially a placeholder for players. If you die and you have a bot on your team, you can then jump into that robot brain and control it. So from the perspective of the other team players, for the most part, they're playing against humans. It's also the case that during peak hours you'll find that the servers are full of organic oxygen breathers, with bots simply appearing for a round every now and again when player disconnects. CSGO is the only game I can think of where bots are not an issue in multiplayer and actually benefit the gameplay. Though it has to be said, it can still be annoying when you're killed by bots, and they do have a rather unconventional way of playing. The way the guns handle in CS is one of the key mechanics. They give the player the choice to spray and take the chance that you'll hit the target, or choose to be controlled and take burst shots using superior aiming to outshoot an opponent, getting a quick kill from a headshot. Mastering how the guns handle and knowing when to spray or how to manipulate the spray in your favour is for me one of the things that keeps me playing Counter-Strike. In CSGO, Valve have taken the middle of the road approach with how the guns handle between CS 1.6 and CSS. To me, the guns seem a lot tighter than those in CSS. The dynamics that emerge seem closer to 1.6 in that you can spray and get kills, but if you take 3-shot bursts and know how to aim, then you'll be far more of an effective player. The AK and the M4 both seem reasonably balanced. The SMGs can be really effective in close combat, but are fairly useless at range, as you would expect. The P90, for example, is still very deadly at close range, but is slightly toned down from CSS and overall is definitely less effective. Though that's not to say that you still can't charge in and take out the whole enemy team with the gun. The body damage it takes to kill someone has gone up by a couple of shots, but in general I think this works well, and the pistol battles are certainly more intense with a bigger payoff for getting headshots. There is a new Molotov grenade added to the game that can be really fun to use and is a very nice addition to the mechanics, opening up a few new strategic options for the players. The way flashbangs work has also been changed from CSS, with them having longer duration of whiteout if you're looking at them. However, they have very little effect if you look away. There is also the addition of a decoy grenade that, when thrown, makes a couple of gunshot sounds and further adds to confusion. Combined with people's now greater respect of the flashbang, when thrown it causes the other team to look away from it, allowing people to quickly storm a position. I wanted to give the AWP its own section of this video, as I feel the effect the AWP has on the game is incredibly significant. I really dislike the AWP. I can see that some interesting gameplay can emerge from having a gun like the AWP in the game, but for the most part it just feels cheap to be killed by it. In a clan match where people are working together very tightly and have spent time training together, the AWP is not necessarily an issue. For example, based on your knowledge of how much money the other team will have, you will know that it's almost certain that at least one person on the other team will be using it, and then so you yourself can then buy the appropriate equipment or take the appropriate action to avoid being sniped by the AWP. It's also fairly obvious where the other team are going to be positioned and using the AWP, making it then possible for you to plan when and where you'll use your flashbangs or how you're going to approach the situation with your teammates. In contrast, in public games it's unpredictable when people use the AWP, and it's often times that they're using it in unconventional ways, making it far harder to counter, and it's not uncommon for people to use the AWP as a mid to close range weapon, almost like a shotgun. All in all though, I just feel that the game would play better without the AWP. A gun like the Scout allows skilled players to have a ranged advantage without having a gun that's effective at close range. So why bother having the AWP at all? Obviously the AWP will stay in the game, as people argue it's part of Counter-Strike. And I'm sure if they did take it out of the game, a lot of the players that use the AWP as their main weapon would have to go outside and pick the wings off butterflies instead of playing Counter-Strike. My only hope is that they make the AWP so ridiculously expensive that it can't be bought in the first 4 rounds of the game, and that if you do buy the AWP and I kill you with a pistol or a knife, I can revel in the fact that I've just destroyed your day. Valve is still making tweaks to the AWP and how it operates. At the moment, there's a slight effect in the scope if you move while scoped, but other than that, for the most part, it plays like the AWP in CSS. If you're good with it, you'll absolutely dominate the other team. All in all, CSGO is a bloody good game. It still has some small bugs which I'm sure will be fixed by the time the game goes gold. Even if the game was released in its current state, I could easily play it for years. I'm excited for new maps and to see what Valve does with the casual mode, and the possibility for them to take aspects of the matchmaking found in Dota 2 and then apply that to CS. I'm not sure if Valve will succeed in uniting 1.6 and Source players. After all, any change however small in the game is going to require a veteran player to relearn skills, and at the end of the day they might still end up being a worse player after the changes than they were before. From my perspective though, CSGO gives me the feel of 1.6 in a LAN environment, but online, on public servers, with better graphics and a bit of spicy sauce on top. If you like either 1.6 or Source, you will most probably enjoy CSGO. Valve have yet to announce a release date for CSGO, so we'll just have to wait and see. For me, after playing the beta for over 100 hours, it's definitely going to be a day one purchase.